There's a nautical Spike Milligan in Q9 later this evening.
Cut a picture of Spike dressed as Hitler wearing German Admiral's uniform, standing on what appears to be the bridge of the Bismarck, or some other herring. Join in with 3 actors all dressed identically. These additional Hitlers are all looking puzzled. They have been cloned. Bring on the clones.
What you see?
My dog has no nose.
How does she smell?
Terrible. I say.
What you see?
My dog has no nose.
How does he smell?
Terrible.
What are we supposed to be doing?
Running gags. I say.
What you say?
Spike Milligan in Q9 tonight at 9, here on 2. In 15 minutes in Out of Court, one of the subjects to be discussed will be parliamentary privilege, and Geoffrey Rooker MP will be taking part. However, before that, we have the mid-evening news with Peter Woods. The time now is exactly 7:45.
Its nuclear deterrent is to be replaced by the American Trident. It'll cost £5,000 million over the next 15 years and come into service in the early 1990s. Our defence correspondent says it's the most important defence decision taken since 1961, when Harold Macmillan and President Kennedy agreed that the Royal Navy should have Polaris submarines. The new Trident deterrent will have 4 submarines, each with 16 missiles, each missile with 8 warheads. Announcing the decision in the Commons, the Defence Secretary, Francis Pym, said at least 70% of the cost would be spent in Britain, thus helping employment. Christopher Wayne reports.
At the moment, we have 4 Polaris boats, each armed with 16 missiles. But by 1992, the submarines will be worn out and the missiles obsolete. It takes 10 years to design and build a nuclear-powered missile submarine, and before work can begin, the designers have to know the size of the missile it will take. The Trident missile is longer and fatter than the Polaris, so to carry it, you need a bigger submarine. That's what's been decided today. The new force will be much more powerful than the Polaris boats. The Trident has a greater range, and that means the boats will have a lot more sea room in which to hide. The British-made warheads will be bigger than those fitted to Polaris submarines and more accurate. And finally, it confirms the place of the Navy as the senior service in the 1990s. The admirals will be delighted by today's decision, the air marshals and generals less so. They'll be worried that the huge amount being spent on this one project will mean much less available for new equipment for the Army and the RAF. But the biggest worry is what would happen in the event of a future Labour government deciding to cancel the project. Is there a danger that having spent billions of pounds, we might end up with nothing at all? That was a point I put to the Defence Secretary, Francis Pym.
No government can bind its successor. You'll remember there was argument in the early 60s over Polaris and the Nassau Agreement, and Mr. Wilson said he wanted to denegotiate it. But in the end, after he won the election in 64, he didn't do that. And so he carried on the strategic deterrent. And then the last Labour government took steps in modernising the warhead, and now we've taken this decision. So there has been a history of governments of both main parties carrying on with this very important element in our deterrent.
No.
After Mr. Pym made his announcement in the Commons, the opposition defence spokesman, Mr. William Rogers, said many people were deeply sceptical about the decision. The case for buying Trident had not been made out. It would preempt a large sum of money which could go to more worthy causes. Britain's trade with the rest of the world was in the black in June for the second successive month. Britain had a balance of payments surplus of £33 million, a million more than May. A trading deficit in goods alone was more than made up by a big surplus on invisible earnings. Imports and exports during the month were evenly balanced at around £4,000 million, and our economics correspondent says the trade figures are likely to continue their improvement as the year goes on. It's been a day of celebration for the Queen Mother's 80th year. A royal procession, a Thanksgiving service at St. Paul's Cathedral, and warm congratulations from the crowd all contributed to a special day for the Queen Mother, whose 80th birthday will be on August the 4th. Kate Adie watched the day's events.
With the glitter and precision that attend such special days, the procession to St. Paul's began from Buckingham Palace in sunshine. It's no secret that Prince Charles is the Queen Mother's favourite grandchild, and he was by her side as they came out to a welcome from the large crowds in the Mall. To honour her mother, the Queen decided to cede precedence to her. So the state landau, drawn by the Queen's greys and leaving the palace last, began the Queen Mother's 3-mile journey to the cathedral. St. Paul's was packed, a congregation of members of the Commonwealth, the government, friends, and nearly the whole of the royal family. 2 royal daughters, 6 grandchildren, and the families of Kent, Gloucester, and Ogilvy. On the steps outside, the Queen waited to greet her mother, emphasizing that it was her day. And the sovereign's escort of the household cavalry trotted up Ludgate Hill to St. Paul's, a family greeting in front of the great west door of the cathedral. Then the state trumpeters took up the welcome. This was a service of thanksgiving, with praise for Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother's warmth, courage and love, and a tribute from the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Between the satiric royalty puts a human face on the operations of government and provides images with which the people of a nation can identify and which they can love.
There were shouts of happy birthday from the thousands lining the route, many making their way towards the palace to see the traditional appearances on the balcony. Endless choruses of happy birthday came from the crowd, celebrating 80 years for Her Majesty the Queen Mother.